Hey friends, today I'm going to talk about the Merida 160 700. It's the upper level model of their two alloy enduro bikes. They also have two carbon versions of the same bike, all with 27.5-inch wheels. The alloy models come with a 170 millimeter fork and 165 millimeters of rear travel. I've been testing the bike on my local trails for the last few months now. As you can see, this trail is called Kia Zeta. It's got some fun little drops, some off-camber turns. It's a great place to test a bike like this. So right off the bat, I'll say that the first thing I noticed climbing to the trail on this bike is that the suspension tune is fairly light. And what I mean by that is that it's really supple, but almost too supple. Like it just felt like it kind of blows through the travel pretty easily. Like it's almost designed for a really light rider. But as long as I kept the compression switch closed on the shock, that didn't cause any real problem. And after that first ride, I rode with the switch closed from there on out. The 700 series build is spec'd with a RockShox Super Deluxe Select Plus damper in the rear, and that shock doesn't have any way to adjust the compression, high speed or low speed. There's just a switch, essentially you could call it a lockout, but there's no other way to firm up the rear end. So I think that would be the first thing I would upgrade on this bike, would be to switch to any shock really that offers a tunable compression system. Up front, the Yari fork worked fantastically. It may not be the most supportive fork on the market, but it really does a great job. It was kind of a set it and forget it fork. I just added a couple of volume spacers, clicked up the compression depending on the trail I was riding, and the thing worked great. Yeah, I think it's a well-suited fork for this bike. As for the drivetrain, the bike's XT shifter and derailleur paired with the Raceface Affect crank worked great. I didn't have any shifting problems at all. It might have been a little slower and slightly less crisp than the XTR that I tested this summer, but I would happily mount it on any of my bikes. It worked really well. And the same goes for the SLX brakes. They're great. They offer plenty of power. Maybe you wouldn't want to throw them on a downhill bike, but I would say they're totally appropriate for this bike in kind of the all-mountain enduro-ish range. And on that, I would also say this is more of an all-mountain bike than an enduro bike. The overall sensation of it is poppy and small, and it feels kind of short. Like it's going to do really well in tighter single track and more technical trails, and it's really just not designed to plow quite like you might want from an enduro bike. It's definitely seems like a good bike for somebody who wants to jump and throw it off things and get a little style in the air. But for my preferences, the bottom bracket felt a bit high, and I really felt like I was fighting the bike more than I would like to on a race bike. To wrap it up, I would say this bike has a really nice build. It's designed for having a lot of fun on the trail. It's got a good amount of travel. I think it'll best suit riders who really love a 27.5 bike and who want to have a bike that's really poppy and playful, that still has a lot of suspension. Good for the bike park, good for playing around. And for some riders, particularly smaller riders, I think it could be a great enduro bike. It's got the right build, it's got the suspension, the geometry is there. It just feels a bit small. And overall, it's a fantastic build at 32, close to 3,300 euros. It's a great bike for the right rider, and I had a lot of fun playing around on this bike. I think if you get a chance to check it out, you might too. For more info on the Merida 160 700, along with loads of other news, videos, reviews, and information on mountain biking and mountain bike adventures, check it all out on Singletracks.com.